What's going on YouTube? It's Matty B. Welcome back to the channel, and as always, thank you all for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Yesterday we had a Gnarls Barkley Thunder Valley National, one of the most chewed up, rutted, insane tracks I've ever seen. We had the 450 class, epic battles all day long, but Jett Lawrence still comes out on top. And then in the 250 class, Deegs has been taken down. No more perfect season talk. Chance Hymas ended the streak. And hell, we even had WMX on TV, and we'll get into all of that and more in this video. But before I do, got to give a huge thank you to a couple of my channel sponsors, ASV Inventions and Sirius Studio. I've got links and discount codes in my description, so make sure to check that out. And if you support them, you're supporting me. No choice. Let's get into the video. First of all, the track. My gosh, it looked like a war zone minefield. I don't even know what more words I could use to describe it, but it was insane. Some of the deepest ruts I've ever seen. And yeah, with the weather leading up into the race, it was kind of a perfect breeding ground for the conditions that we got. Practice started out super muddy. 450B group had that fresh track in the morning, and we got to see several of those guys take advantage of the fresh track conditions. And we saw some people make their first national by taking advantage of that situation. But it was brutal. There were some track changes, and honestly, I didn't really love the track changes just visually. I feel like the track used to be a lot cooler whenever it would go all the way up to the top, rip around the Thunder Valley sign, and then head back down. But the track provided great racing all day, and even the sections that got changed, I saw passes there all day long. So really, what the hell do I know? I mean, they put together an awesome racetrack. And one thing I love about Thunder Valley is they continue to make changes year after year. There are some tracks that stay the same all the time. Talking to you, Budds Creek. But yeah, love it when they change the track up a little bit. It's not always for the better, but at least it keeps it just something different and something exciting. Now we'll go ahead and get into the results. We'll start with the 450 class today. And with the win, a 1-1. Man, the dude can hardly be stopped. Jett Lawrence, he was on the ropes. It looked like AP had some speed on him at one point. It looked like Tomac had speed on him. It even looked like Hunter and J. Coop had some speed on him at one point. But after 30 plus 2, 2 motos, the dude wins them both again. And it's just absolutely insane how much of a machine this dude is as far as management mode goes. I mean, he had pressure from all angles at one point in both of those motos, and he managed to fend everybody off and go 1-1 again, extend the points lead. And the dude makes it look way too easy doing it. You know, I know with those guys all over him, he's got to at least be close to the limit, but he just looks like he's standing up on a joyride out there. You know, he's got that Stefan Everts on steroid style. And I said it last week, I'll say it again. I really don't see him losing an overall win, barring any disaster like a first turn crash, first lap issue, or a bike issue. The kid's a machine. I think he's on his way to winning this title by a long shot, but thankfully, he's got a lot of contenders that are at least showing him a wheel and pressuring him pretty heavy while he's getting these wins. So I don't think we'll see a boring season like we did back in 2023. But I do think we're going to see the 18 on top way more often than not. Then in second, Eli Tomac with a 3-2. And I kind of thought he had Jett in that second moto. He had made up some ground, ran him down, made some passes, and had him right where he wanted him. But the only problem is I kind of think Jett had Eli right where he wanted him too. You know, right in that 2 to 3 second window. Jett doesn't stress at all about that. I feel like he's totally cool with that. Listening to Eli rev bomb his 450 behind him, which stresses me out. So more power to Jett for being down with it. But an unfortunate, untimely crash in the second moto kind of ended that battle before it really got started. But if I'm being honest, I really don't think Eli was going to make the move. I kind of think he had gotten about as close as he could get. And even if he did get closer, Jett is just so smart and so good about putting on those spurts of speed in the sections where he can get past, and then he kind of just takes a breather in the sections where he knows he won't get past. So I guess we'll never know because the situation never materialized, but I do wish we could have seen that down the stretch. I think it would have been good. I'm not really sure the result would have changed. Then in third, AP. How about AP just passing Jett straight up in the first moto? Hell, at this point, AP has passed Jett and beat Jett outdoors way more than his teammate Chase Sexton, and that is a shocker to me. But AP, the dude loves the great outdoors. I think he's been over Supercross since about January. And those deep ruts, when it gets gnarly like that, he can go back to those GNCC routes, just stand up, rip through those ruts, and those conditions were perfect for him. Awesome first moto. Not quite as good of a second moto, but still good enough to get on the box. And we all love box around here, so great job, AP. Then in fourth, Justin Cooper. A little bit underwhelming to me for him to get fourth because I feel like he had the speed to win, as he showed in qualifying and at the beginning of the second moto. But it's gnarly going 30 plus 2 with Jett, Tomac, and all those guys. I mean, one lap speed is one thing, but 35 minutes is another thing. Trust me, I would know. but still a very solid start to the season for J Coop. I don't believe he's been outside the top 5, except for one moto at Fox Raceway, so the dude's coming on strong. I think he'll be in it all summer, and I'm still not ruling out a moto win. Stay tuned. Quiet 5th for Hunta with a 4-4. That's a kick in the groin to get 2 fourths, but then 5th overall. And he kind of threw away that 3rd place with a last lap crash in Moto 1. Wouldn't have changed his overall. Then he would have just went 3-5 for 5th. But Hunta showed a lot of speed. I feel like that was the most flash we've seen out of him thus far in the outdoor season. And those guys are still figuring out that new Honda, so I think Hunter is going to get better and better. Jett can kind of ride around those bike issues because he's a mutant, but I think Hunter needs that setup a little bit more solidified to get up front with those guys. Then a 6th for Cooper Webb and a 7th for RJ Hampshire. They went 6-7 and 7-6. Solid day for Webb. He's just way off of those front 5. Those guys have kind of separated themselves from the rest of the pack speed-wise, and even throughout the full moto. And then RJ, he actually ran with those guys at the beginning of Moto 1, but the dude's missing bones in his wrists, so I'm sure he had some sort of fatigue, pain, etc., something like that. But the dude has really impressed me so far in the outdoors in this rookie 450 season. And then a quiet 8th for Malcolm Stewart, a 10-10, and then a 9th top 10 for Valentin Guillot out of Switzerland from MXGP. Goes 14-8, and this is a really cool story to me that he decided to come over here and race in the States. He's a privateer in MXGP, and in MXGP, you don't even get to race for prize money. You're just sitting there eating ramen out of a hubcap in between motos. So for Guillot to come over here, I mean, he probably made over $1,000 yesterday, which we still all wish it was more, but compared to zero, that's sick. And he's another guy. I think he'll get better throughout the summer as he gets a little bit more adjusted to racing here in the USA. And there's going to be tracks where he's not super comfortable on, and he may struggle, but there's going to be some tracks that maybe suit him and his style, and I think we maybe could even see him creep a little bit closer towards the top 5. 10th for Joey Savacci. Have not really heard or seen from him all season yet in outdoors, but he's been quietly right there in that 9, 10, 11 range. And then an 11th, a 13-13 for Benny Bloss. Good result for him on the Beta, especially being that it was their first ever pro motocross race last weekend at Hangtown. So I'm sure they're still trying to collect some data. They're testing. I mean, it's a process trying to get a new bike in a new series, but regardless, a great ride to get it right outside the top 10. Finally, some signs of life out of Harry Kulas in 12th, and then in 13th with an 8:39, Jorge Prado. And do you guys hear that siren? That's the panic button. This dude is just looking like a shell of Jorge Prado out there on the Kawasaki. Doesn't look comfortable at all. If I was Jorge, I would be missing the days when I was on the gas twice, because on the gas, he was one with that bike and he was super dialed in. But now, switched to aluminum frame, new country, new everything. I even saw that he was switching his start technique and no longer starting with 1 foot up, and he's gotten like a billion hole shots with that technique. It is a little different here with ruts after the gate, but still, when you see the guy searching and changing things that have been an asset for him, like his start technique, I feel like he's in trouble, and I don't really see it getting a whole lot better anytime soon. And I hope I'm wrong, because this dude has so much potential. He's a bad dude, a 4-time world champion, and he has all the talent, all the skill to run with those guys up front if he's comfortable and if he's dialed in. And unfortunately, neither of those things are the case right now. So hopefully he does some testing, finds some settings, and finds some comfort, because this series is only going to get better if Prado's up at the front. Colt 45 and 2 zigzags, 14th overall, a solid 9th in the second moto, I believe a DNF in Moto 1. And then 15th, Cody with a T, Cody Shock. Awesome hole shot and lap lead in Moto 2. That's not easy. I mean, yeah, it's only 1 lap, but the dude was fending off Supercross champion Cooper Webb, the Lawrences, Tomac, you name it. They were all behind Cody Shock. And I just love this guy's story. Not an amateur prodigy, nothing like that. Just scratched and clawed his way to where he's at. The dude has tons of talent, but he's obviously had to work hard to get where he's at too. And yeah, I'm a huge fan. Bravo, Cody Shock. I think this is only the beginning of the flashes of greatness that we could see out of Cody Shock, especially in this 450 class this summer. 16th overall for Mitchell Harrison. I feel like he's somebody that people forget how good he is at outdoors. I mean, he's podiumed pro motocross races on a 250F. So whenever we get over to Redbud and some of those tracks he's a little bit more comfortable on, I think we could see him inch a little bit closer to that top 10. 17th for Derek Drake with a solid 11th in the second moto. I feel like it's been a very hot and cold start to the season for him also, but he's shown a lot of speed. 18th for Roman Pape, 19th for El Hombre, Jason Anderson with a 12 and a 40. I know the dude hates the altitude. I'm with him. I don't acclimate well to it at all. But yeah, I bet the dude probably wishes he stayed at the house with Siggy, hanging out driving the Tesla back home instead of racing in the altitude and going 1240. Rounding out the top 20 is Derek Kelly, and then I want to jump down to 24th. My boy Tyler Stepick puts it in the points, 2 motos in a row with a 19 and a 21. And I just wanted to give him a shout out because the dude is riding so much better this year than in years past. He's up there battling with the big dogs, good qualifying times, the speed's there, the fitness is there, and this dude is also the absolute funniest goon rider you'll ever see. Stay tuned to some content coming from he and I, but great job, Tyler Stepick. And then 26th, Joshua Boaz. I just wanted to point this out because last year when I raced Thunder Valley off the couch, he and I were battling for 36th place in Moto 1, and then this year he goes 23, 25. So I think the 450 class, it's kind of mellowed out in the 20 through 40 range. It's actually kind of strange. The 250 class has had way more entries this year than the 450 class. So I think with the inception of Super Motocross, a lot of those top guys are racing all summer. They want to get those points to get into the playoffs. So outdoors used to be open season in the 450 class for the privateers, and that's kind of changed over the last couple years, and now everybody's kind of switched to the 250 class, which is insane because building a mod 250 is like building a time bomb. But either way, I picked the wrong year to race off the couch because homie went 23, 25, and last year we were in 35th. And then last but not least, in the 450 class, 28th for Lights Out Lightsel. I was going to slap him because I told him if he didn't make the Fast 40, I was going to do that. He finished one out in the LCQ. He got 5th, but I think somebody was out for both motos, so he ended up getting to race both of them, 27-27. And the dude said he popped his shoulder out in the first practice in the morning, so Digger's dig, solid ride. Now we'll jump into the 250 class. With the win, he takes down Deegs, 1-1 for Chance Hyman. You guys always get so worked up whenever I say that. I'm just joking. JS7 said it on TV one time, and I thought it was hilarious. But Chance Hymas gets the win. I'm a little bit surprised because with the food poisoning and kind of draining the tank last weekend at Hangtown in the heat, I really didn't expect him to be able to recover and do 2 30+2s at altitude at Thunder Valley in just 7 days' time. But the dude did it. He was pretty much flawless all day. Even when Deegan put on that charge at the end of the second moto, Chance answered immediately, dropped the lap times, and identified as a broom and took the 1-1 sweep. And I feel like this is what we've all been expecting from Chance, being that he didn't have a great Supercross season, was kind of putting some emphasis early on getting ready for the outdoors. So I thought this was going to be coming at round 1, but better late than never. Then in second, Hayden Deegan. I was really interested to see if he was going to be able to run down Chance in the first moto until that bike issue, because it looked like it was shaping up to be an epic finish, but the dude ended up having to nurse at home. So we'll never really know if it was straight up or not. And then even in the second moto, that crash was kind of the difference between he and Chance Hymas battling it out to the finish. And I saw on Instagram, Hayden said he's still sick, and it's already hard enough racing at altitude anyway. I mean, whenever I raced last year, my lungs felt like I smoked 12 cartons of Marlboro Reds that day, and I swore I limited myself to 6. But either way, 2-2, perfect season talk is over, so that actually might be some pressure lifted off, but still got a big points lead, still putting points on his nearest competitors, and it's still Deegs' world, and the boys are living in it, just not Chance Hymas on the day. Then a third for Levi Kitchen with an 8-3. Hell of a ride in that second moto. He was digging deep, making passes late, and then I saw a video as he was headed under the tent for the podium. That bike was letting go. She was about 3 seconds from grenading, but it made it, and we saw a lot of that actually out of the 250 class. We saw a couple of star bikes break. We saw a couple of the AEO KTMs break. And those bikes, they're just starving for air. They're screaming. All these teams are trying to get as much power out of them as possible due to the horsepower decrease that you get when you ride up at the Mile High National. Fourth for Marchbanks with a 3-8. I guess the dude's transponder broke off after crashing in the first turn of the second moto. But that's an epic ride to go from down in turn 1 to P8, salvage a 4th overall, and the dude is making a really good case for himself to get re-signed by the Pro Circuit squad next year. And I heard he's working with Brock Tickle, and Brock Tickle is a dog, so I can only see this partnership being a good thing moving forward for Garrett Marchbanks. 5th for Tom Vial with a 6-5, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Besides the one day at Southwick in 2023, this dude has been super underwhelming outdoors since he's gotten here in the States, and I think part of it is that the 250 class level here is a little bit higher than MX2. In the MXGP class, the 250 class has an age rule, so whenever you turn 23, you got to bounce, you got to go to the 450s, so all the top tier talent ends up in the 450 class, where here it's kind of open season, you can do whatever. And even with the difference in field, he just has not looked like the same Tom Vial that he looked like in Europe. I know the bikes are different rules. I think he has a little bit more of a works bike in Europe, but either way, I expected him to be doing outdoors what he did in Supercross, so he's been a little bit of the opposite of what I expected. 6th for Sushi, Joe Shimoda with a 9-4. The run of second places ends, but still a decent day. And when talking about the championship, if a bad day for you is a 9-4, then you're sitting good. The only problem is the points leader's bad day was a 2-2. Awesome day for Casey Cochran, 7th overall with a 13-6. And just like I said last weekend, the dude's coming off injury. It's been a long year off the bike, so to already be doing this well at round 3, and even compared to 1 week ago at Hangtown, now he's going the whole 30 plus 2. He's going the distance. I think this is overwhelmingly positive for Casey Cochran, and I think we're going to continue it throughout the summer. I think the kid's fighting for a ride, so he has no choice but to dig. The silent grinder, Dylan Schwartz, 8th overall on the Bar X Yamaha, goes 10-10, and that is so impressive to be a non-factory racer in the 250 class and to get a top 10 at altitude, so big ups to Dylan Schwartz and the Bar X Yamaha squad. 9th for Mikkel Harup, showed some great speed in Moto 1, ended up 7th, and then a great comeback in Moto 2 to get 13th after crashing on lap 1. And I think we'll continue to see some of these flashes out of Harup at tracks he's comfortable on. But then there's going to be some tracks that are a little bit more Americanized that he doesn't really gel with. And I think we'll see him fighting for 15 to 20, wondering who the guys are around him. Ty Masterpool rounds out the top 10 with a 4.16, and the dude looked so tired out there. Helen Keller actually just texted me, and even she said she can see the writing on the wall for Ty Masterpool and Pro Circuit. I was really excited about this partnership, especially with how good Ty was last summer, but just hasn't quite panned out as anybody hoped. And yeah, it's been a rough start to the season. Maybe an illness going on, maybe something like that, so maybe it'll buff out, but yeah, not the best look for Masterpool. Max Volan handbrakes it to an 11th, and I feel like that handbrake actually could have been pretty sick in a lot of places, especially with those deep ruts, just being able to stay on the toes. Quiet 12th for Jordan Smith on a track he really likes. I kind of expected a little bit more. And then a 13th for Drew Adams, a 5th in the first moto, and then a crash out in the second moto. He's a rookie. You'll have that in the contract. Flashes of speed and then crashes. Bummer for Moseman to go out with a bike issue in the first moto, but he goes 38.7 for a 15th overall. And he's been very quietly impressive so far this outdoor season. Almost got 4th at Hangtown, had a big crash at the end. Then the bike issue kind of derailed the overall here, but the riding has been a lot better than the results. Ryder D will get 15th overall when it's time. 16th for Australian Star Racing Yamaha rookie Caden Manier. And I feel like that was a decent showing for him to just jump in and sniff the top 10 in Moto 2 on an absolutely insane track. And this dude was an Australian pro before he came here, so this whole pro racing deal isn't exactly super new to him, and I'm a little bummed that he's going to be going back and racing Loretta Lynn's as an amateur this summer. I think he's plenty good enough to stay pro. I think he could just use the experience, keep racing the Nationals, and just be more ready for next year. But I don't own a team. I'm not a top guy, so these guys obviously know more than I do. 17th for 2 Jews Beaumare. This was a pretty horrible day, but Thunder Valley aside, I feel like he's actually been very quietly impressive to start the outdoor season. Just had some crashes and some issues. Silent 18th for Forkner, a 19th for Nate Thrasher. The dude could get 19th or 1st, and nobody would bat an eye. And then rounding out the top 20, the hero from Hangtown, Lance Kobush, and the dude puts in 2 motos in the points at altitude as a privateer on a 250F, and really, that's about all you can ask for. And then shout out to P22, Cole Timbo, puts it in the points in Moto 2, and he was actually a B rider racing Loretta Lynn's less than a year ago. I thought he was going to be racing Loretta's again, but I think he's just going to stay in the deep end and get that experience. 23rd for Avery Long, and I was so thrilled watching this guy rip through the pack at the beginning of Moto 2. I mean, he flew by the guy who got 3rd in the Moto. The speed was there. Unfortunately, a bike issue kind of took him out of it. And I don't think he was going to get tired. Avery's a dog. He's in shape, so I think he was in it for the long haul, but I guess we'll never know. But either way, it was really cool to see that flash that I know Avery has. He's a super talented kid, a little bit on the bigger and tall side, so I can only imagine 250 at altitude was a struggle, but it sure didn't look like it. He was up front, right there with the big dogs, and I really hope some team takes a chance on him because Avery Long is massively untapped potential. Just needs a factory bike. 30th for Wyatt Matson, which I think is a cool story because he actually used to be Hayden Deegan's mechanic on the Star Racing Yamaha team. Said, nah, I'm cool, put down the wrenches, he's back on the bike, and he's making nationals. Shout out to my buddy Hamden Hudson. He's from the same town as me. Puts it in the motos for the first time this year and gets a 33rd. Son of Colin Edwards, Hayes Edwards makes his first ever national and his first ever attempt and gets 34th. Then last but not least, Crockett Myers in the 36th spot. I have no idea what happened to him in the motos, but the dude was unbelievable in qualifying. He ended up top 10 overall out of the B practice, and he was actually faster than Cade Manier. So we can work with speed, baby. The results just did not pan out. And then crazy enough, I've never seen this before, but in time qualifying, top 36 go to the races, and there was a tie between 36th and 37th. Gavin Towers and Kyle Wise. I'm not sure how they decided it. Maybe there's another decimal point that I don't know about. But Towers got the shaft, had to race the LCQ after a tie. But that's all I got for today from Thunder Valley. Let me know in the comments what you think about my takes, if you agree, if you disagree, if I'm shot out, or anything in between. And next weekend, we're finally headed back to the East Coast at High Point in Pennsylvania. As of now, I'm planning on being there, so really looking forward to it. It's going to be a good one, and yeah, hope you guys are too. Appreciate you guys watching. Thanks again. We're out.